The sun was just starting to rise over the green hills of Korea when Dae-ho walked out of his small house. He was an old man now, maybe 60 years old, with rough hands from working on his farm all his life. His black hair had turned gray and deep lines marked his face from years of smiling and working under the sun. Dae-ho lived alone on his farm. His wife had died 3 years ago and they never had children. Now it was just him and his rice fields, his small vegetable garden, and the few chickens that walked around his yard. He did not mind being alone. The farm kept him busy, and he found peace in watching things grow. Every morning, Dae-ho would walk the same path through his fields. He would check his rice plants, look for bugs or sick plants, and plan what work needed to be done that day. This morning felt different, though. The air seemed heavy, and the birds were not singing like they usually did. As Dae-ho walked toward the eastern part of his farm, he heard a loud crash that made him jump. It sounded like thunder, but there were no clouds in the sky. The sound came from the hills behind his rice fields. Then he heard something else that made his blood feel cold. It was a cry, but not from any animal he knew. It was high and sad, like a baby crying, but also strange and wild. Dae-ho grabbed his walking stick and hurried toward the sound. His old legs moved as fast as they could across the uneven ground. As he got closer to the hills, he could smell something burning. Smoke was rising from behind the trees. When Dae-ho reached the top of the small hill, he stopped and stared. In front of him was a big hole in the ground, like something very heavy had fallen from the sky. The earth was black and smoking. Pieces of metal that looked like no metal he had ever seen were scattered around the hole. The metal was smooth and seemed to change color when the light hit it. But what made Dae-ho forget about the strange metal was the small creature lying in the middle of the hole. It was about the size of a large cat, but it looked like nothing he had ever seen before. Its body was covered in scales that shined like oil on water. The scales changed from purple to silver to blue as the creature moved. It had wings, but they were torn and bleeding. Its head was long like a snake, but it had big eyes that looked very smart. The creature was trying to lift its head, but it was too weak. It made soft crying sounds that reminded Dae-ho of the baby birds he used to find when he was a young boy. The creature's eyes found Dae-ho, and he could see that it was very hungry and very scared. Dae-ho had seen many hurt animals in his life. During the war, when he was a young soldier, he had learned that pain looked the same on every living thing. This strange creature was in pain, and it was asking for help with its big, sad eyes. Without thinking about how strange the situation was, Dae-ho climbed down into the smoking hole. The creature did not try to run away or attack him. It just looked at him with those intelligent eyes and made soft sounds like it was trying to talk. Dae-ho took off his old jacket and carefully wrapped it around the injured creature. The creature's body was warm, warmer than any normal animal, and he could feel it shaking. When he picked it up, the creature made a small sound and seemed to relax in his arms. There, Dae-ho said in Korean, using the same soft voice he had used with hurt animals all his life. You are safe now. I will take care of you. The creature looked up at him and made a different sound, softer and somehow grateful. Dae-ho was amazed. This creature, whatever it was, understood that he was trying to help. Dae-ho carried the creature back to his house, walking slowly so he would not hurt it more. As he walked, he talked to it in a quiet voice, telling it about his farm and promising that he would find it something to eat. The creature listened to every word, its eyes never leaving his face. Back in his kitchen, Dae-ho gently placed the creature on some old blankets near his warm stove. He heated some milk in a small pot and found a spoon. When he offered the milk to the creature, it drank eagerly, making happy sounds as it swallowed. You were very hungry, were you not? Dae-ho asked, refilling the spoon. The creature looked at him and made a sound that seemed like agreement. As the creature drank more milk, Dae-ho could see it getting stronger. Its eyes became brighter, and it was able to hold its head up better. When it had finished drinking, it looked at Dae-ho and made a sound that could only mean thank you. Dae-ho smiled. I think you are some kind of dragon, he said. But you are just a baby dragon. I will call you Beul, which means star, because you fell from the sky like a shooting star. The creature, now named Beul, seemed to like this name. It made a happy chirping sound and tried to move closer to Dae-ho. That night, as rain began to fall outside, Dae-ho sat next to Beul's makeshift bed. The little dragon was sleeping, but sometimes it would make scared sounds and move restlessly. Each time this happened, Daeho would gently touch its head and hum old songs his mother had sung to him when he was small. "Do not worry, little star," Daeho whispered. "You are home now. I will take care of you until you are strong again." As he watched the strange creature sleep, Daeho wondered where it had come from and if others like it were looking for it. But these thoughts did not worry him. He had found a hurt baby that needed care, and that was all that mattered right now. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing away the smoke from the crash site. Inside the warm kitchen, an old Korean farmer kept watch over an alien dragon baby, beginning a friendship that would change both their lives forever. 3 months had passed since Daeho found the little dragon he called Byle. The small creature that had once fit in his jacket was now as tall as his waist. Byle's wings had healed completely and were now strong and beautiful. The dragon's scales shined brighter than ever, changing colors like a rainbow when the sunlight touched them. Byle ate a lot of food every day. The dragon loved everything Daeho gave him. He ate rice, vegetables from the garden, fish from the nearby stream, and even the leftover chicken from dinner. Daeho was amazed at how much such a young creature could eat, but he did not mind. He had plenty of food, and seeing Byle grow healthy and strong made him happy. The most surprising thing about Byle was how smart he was. The dragon understood everything Daeho said in Korean. When Daeho asked him to stay inside, Byle would stay inside. When Daeho pointed to something and named it, Byle would remember the word and respond when he heard it again. Byle also wanted to help with the farm work. At first, Daeho was worried that the dragon might accidentally damage his crops. But Byle was very careful. The dragon learned to use his sharp claws to make perfect rows in the soil for planting seeds. He could remove weeds without hurting the good plants. Most amazing of all, Byle could breathe a small, controlled flame that burned away the bad weeds but did not harm the vegetables. "You are a very special helper," Daeho would tell Byle as they worked together in the morning. The dragon would make happy chirping sounds and seem to smile with his eyes. The work that used to take Daeho all day now took only a few hours with Byle's help. The dragon's claws could dig irrigation channels perfectly straight. His fire breath could clear large areas of unwanted plants in minutes, and Byle seemed to understand exactly what needed to be done without being told. In the evenings, Daeho and Byle would sit on the porch of the small house. Daeho would drink tea and tell stories about his life, about his wife who had died, about the old days when he was young. Byle would listen to every word, making soft sounds that showed he understood. But sometimes Byle would do strange things that worried Daeho. The dragon would stand in the yard at night and look up at the stars for hours. He would make long, low calls that sounded like he was trying to talk to something far away. When he did this, his scales would glow with a soft light that Daeho had never seen before. "Are you trying to call your family, little star?" Daeho asked one night as he watched Byle staring at the sky. The dragon looked at him with sad eyes and made a sound that meant yes. Daeho felt sorry for Byle. The dragon was clearly not from Earth, and somewhere out there his real family might be looking for him. But Daeho also felt scared. What if Byle's family came and took him away? The old farmer had grown to love the dragon like his own son. During the day, Byle was happy and playful. He liked to chase the chickens around the yard, though he was always gentle and never hurt them. He enjoyed splashing in the stream when they went to catch fish. He even learned to play simple games that Daeho taught him. But Daeho noticed that Byle was changing in other ways too. The dragon was getting restless. He would walk around the farm like he was looking for something. Sometimes he would stand at the edge of the farm and stare into the distance for a long time. The people in the nearby village had started to notice strange things too. Some fishermen reported seeing strange lights in the sky at night. Others said they heard unusual sounds coming from the direction of Daeho's farm. A few brave people had tried to visit Daeho to ask about these stories, but Byle always hid when strangers came near. Daeho was careful to keep Byle's existence secret. He knew that if the government found out about an alien creature living on his farm, they would take Byle away. Scientists would want to study him. Military people would want to use him as a weapon. Daeho could not let that happen. "You are my family now," Daeho told Byle one evening as they watched the sunset. "I will protect you no matter what happens." Byle seemed to understand the seriousness in Daeho's voice. The dragon moved closer to the old man and gently placed his head on Daeho's shoulder. It was a gesture that reminded Daeho of how his own children might have shown affection, if he had been blessed with any. One morning, as they were working in the rice fields, Beale suddenly stopped and raised his head toward the sky. His scales began to glow brighter than Deho had ever seen them. The dragon opened his mouth and released a call that was louder and more musical than any sound he had made before. The call echoed across the valley and seemed to travel up into the clouds. Deho watched in amazement as Beale continued calling for several minutes. Then, to the old farmer's shock, an answering call came from somewhere high above them, so high that Deho could not see what made the sound. Beale's eyes filled with excitement. He danced around the rice field, his scales flashing with joy. He made happy sounds and kept looking up at the sky as if waiting for something to appear. "Your family heard you," Deho said quietly. He felt happy for Beale but also afraid. If the dragon's family was coming, everything was about to change. That night, Beale could not sleep. He kept going outside to call to the sky and listen for answers. Each time, the responses from above seemed to get closer. Deho sat by his window, smoking his pipe and wondering what would happen when creatures like Beale came to Earth. Would they be peaceful like his gentle dragon friend? Or would they be dangerous? As the night went on, strange lights began to appear between the clouds. They moved in ways that no airplane or helicopter could move. Deho realized that his quiet life as a simple farmer was about to end forever. 3 days after Beale first called to the sky, the answer came. Deho was sitting on his porch in the early morning drinking tea and watching the sunrise when he saw them. Giant shapes were moving through the clouds like nothing he had ever seen before. They were not airplanes or helicopters. These things were too big and moved too smoothly through the air. Beale saw them too. The dragon jumped up from where he had been lying in the yard and began to dance with excitement. His scales glowed so brightly that they lit up the entire farm. He called out in his musical voice, and the sounds that came back from the sky were like thunder mixed with singing. The largest of the flying objects began to come down toward Deho's farm. As it got closer, the old farmer could see that it was shaped like a huge bird, but it was made of the same strange metal as the pieces from Beale's crashed ship. The surface changed colors as it moved, and lights ran along its sides like flowing water. Deho felt scared but also amazed. He had lived through a war and seen many frightening things, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Still, he did not run. Beale was here, and Beale trusted these visitors. That meant Deho would trust them too. The giant ship landed gently in the rice field behind Deho's house. It was so big that it covered an area larger than his entire farm. The weight of it should have destroyed his crops, but somehow the rice plants were not even bent. The ship seemed to float just above the ground without actually touching it. A door opened in the side of the ship, and the beings that came out made Deho's knees feel weak. They were dragons like Beale, but fully grown. The smallest one was as tall as a 2-story building. Their wings could block out the sun when they spread them wide. Their scales were more beautiful than any jewel Deho had ever seen, but what surprised Deho most was that these powerful creatures did not seem angry or dangerous. They moved slowly and carefully like they did not want to frighten him. The largest dragon, whose scales were gold and silver like starlight, lowered its enormous head until it was level with Deho's eyes. When the dragon spoke, its voice was deep like distant thunder, but the words were in perfect Korean. "Hello, honored human. I am Admiral Tae-Yang of the Star Dragon Empire. The young one you have protected is my son, Prince Subin of the royal family." Deho nearly dropped his teacup. A prince. He had been taking care of a prince for 3 months. He had been feeding a royal dragon leftover rice and teaching him to pull weeds in the vegetable garden. The thought was so ridiculous that Deho almost laughed despite being terrified. "Your son?" Deho managed to say. His voice sounded very small compared to the dragon's powerful words. "Yes," Admiral Tae-Yang replied. "Prince Subin was exploring space in a small ship when he crashed on your world. We searched many star systems trying to find him. It was only when he began calling to us 3 days ago that we could locate this planet." Beale, who Deho now knew was really Prince Subin, ran to his father and nuzzled the huge dragon's head with obvious love. But then the young dragon did something that surprised everyone. He turned back to Deho and began speaking in the musical dragon language, gesturing toward the old farmer again and again. Admiral Tae-Yang listened to his son with growing amazement. When Prince Subin finished speaking, the admiral looked at Deho with new respect in his ancient eyes. "Prince Subin tells me an incredible story," Admiral Tae-Yang said slowly. "He says that when he crashed he was injured and starving. You found him and brought him to your home. You fed him when he was hungry. You cared for his wounds. You treated him like your own child, even though he was a strange creature from another world. The Admiral paused, and Daeho could see other adult dragons gathering around them, listening to every word. My son also tells me that you taught him about growing things, about the joy of honest work, about finding happiness in simple daily tasks. He says you showed him what it means to care for others without expecting anything in return. Daeho felt embarrassed by all this attention. I only did what anyone would do, he said quietly. He was hurt and hungry. He needed help. Admiral Taeyang's eyes grew even more amazed. That is exactly what makes your actions so special, honored human. Among our people, protecting another's child, especially a child from a different species, is considered the highest possible honor. You did not know Prince Subin was royalty. You did not know his family was powerful. You helped him simply because he needed help. The Admiral straightened to his full height and his voice became formal and serious. By the ancient laws of the Star Dragon Empire, you have earned a place of great honor. You are now life bond to Prince Subin, an honored guardian of the royal family. Other dragons around them began to sing in voices that made the earth vibrate. Lights danced between their wings as they performed what was clearly a very important ceremony. Daeho stood in the middle of it all, still holding his teacup, trying to understand what was happening to his quiet life. What does that mean? Daeho asked when the singing stopped. Admiral Taeyang smiled, which was an amazing sight on such a huge and powerful face. It means, honored Daeho, that you are now family to the Royal House of Dragons. Your world, your entire species, is now under our protection. Any threat to humanity will be treated as an attack on our own empire. Daeho sat down heavily on his porch steps. His simple act of kindness toward one hungry creature had somehow made him the most important human on Earth. What happened next would be remembered by dragons for thousands of years. Admiral Taeyang rose to his full height and spread his magnificent wings. His voice carried across the valley as he made an announcement that would change everything. By the power given to me by the Dragon Council and the ancient laws of our people, I declare that the human Daeho is now life bond to Prince Subin. He is honored guardian of the royal line and friend to all dragons. More dragons descended from ships that appeared in the sky. There were dozens of them, each one beautiful and powerful. They formed a great circle around Daeho's small farm. Their voices joined together in a song that made the mountains echo. The sound was so beautiful that Daeho felt tears running down his face. Lights began to dance between the dragon's wings. The lights were every color Daeho could imagine, and some colors he had never seen before. They swirled around the farm like living rainbows. The ceremony was more magnificent than anything in human history. When the singing ended, Admiral Taeyang explained what being life bond really meant. Honored Daeho, this is not just a title. Among our people, you are now considered true family to the royal house. Your planet Earth is now under the protection of the Star Dragon Empire. If anyone tries to hurt your world or your people, they will have to fight all of us. Daeho tried to understand what this meant. His simple kindness to one hurt creature had somehow made Earth the most protected planet in the galaxy. It seemed impossible, but the serious faces of all the dragons around him told him it was real. But I am just a farmer, Daeho said. I do not know how to be important. I do not know anything about ruling or making big decisions. Admiral Taeyang's expression became gentle and understanding. That is exactly why you are perfect for this role, Life Bond. We do not need you to rule or make political decisions. We need you to continue being exactly what you are. You are the one who taught our prince that power and kindness can exist together. The Admiral gestured toward Prince Subin, who was still standing close to Daeho. My son has requested something very unusual. He wants to stay here and continue learning from you. He wants to be the bridge between your people and ours. Prince Subin spoke up in his musical dragon language, and Admiral Taeyang translated. He says that in 3 months living with you, he learned more about happiness and purpose than in all his years of royal education. He wants to establish what you humans might call an embassy here, close to your farm. Daeho looked at the young dragon he still thought of as Buell. You want to stay here, even though you could go home to palaces and riches? Prince Subin moved closer to Daeho and made soft sounds that the old farmer had learned meant yes. The dragon gently touched his head to Daeho's hand, just like he had done that first night when he was small and scared. Admiral Taeyang smiled at this display of affection. Prince Subin will serve as our ambassador to Earth. He will help your people and ours learn to work together. But he has insisted that he wants to keep helping you with your farm work. He says it teaches him important things about life. The dragons worked through the night using technology that seemed like magic. They repaired all the damage their ships had caused to Daeho's fields. By morning, his farm looked better than it had in years. The rice grew in perfect rows, and new systems brought water to every plant without any visible pipes or machines. More importantly, they built what they called a cultural exchange center in the nearby hills. It was a beautiful building that looked like it grew from the earth itself. The building was where humans and dragons could meet safely to share knowledge and become friends. We chose this location to be close to your farm. Admiral Tae Yang explained to Daeho, "You are the first successful example of friendship between our species. Others will come here to learn from your example." As the sun rose, government helicopters appeared in the distance. Daeho could see them flying toward his farm. He felt worried about what the government people would do when they saw the dragons. Admiral Tae Yang noticed his concern. "Do not worry, Life Bond. We have already sent messages to your world leaders. They know about our presence here, and they know about your special status. Anyone who tries to interfere with you or harm you will answer to us." The Admiral gave Daeho a small device that looked like a smooth stone. "This will let you speak to us anytime you need help. Prince Subin also has one. If there is ever any trouble, call us and we will come immediately." Before leaving, Admiral Tae Yang handed Daeho a document written in many languages, including Korean. "This is a formal treaty between the Star Dragon Empire and Earth. It explains your role and the protection we now offer your world. Show this to any government officials who question you." The helicopters landed just as the dragon ships began to rise into the sky. Men in dark suits got out and approached Daeho's farm. They looked very serious and important, but when they saw the treaty document, their attitudes changed completely. The lead official read the treaty and looked at Daeho with amazement. "Sir, according to this document, you are now the most important human on Earth. You have made humanity allies with the most powerful empire in the galaxy." Daeho watched the dragon ships disappear into the clouds. Prince Subin stayed behind, already walking toward the vegetable garden to begin the day's work. The young dragon looked back at Daeho and made happy sounds that meant he was ready to help with farming. "I just helped a hungry child," Daeho said simply. Anyone would have done the same thing. But as he looked at the government officials' amazed faces, Daeho realized that maybe not everyone would have made the same choice. Maybe his simple act of kindness really was special after all. 6 months after the dragons first came to Earth, Daeho's life had changed in ways he never could have imagined. Prince Subin had grown into a magnificent young dragon whose wisdom seemed to increase every day. The prince still loved working on the farm, but now he was also helping solve problems all around the world. The Cultural Exchange Center in the hills had become the busiest place on Earth. Every day, scientists and teachers from many countries came to work with dragon scholars. Together, they were making discoveries that seemed impossible just months before. Human doctors were learning from dragon medicine. The dragons had ways to heal injuries and sickness that humans had never seen. They shared knowledge about making medicines from plants and how to help people live longer, healthier lives. Hospitals around the world were already using new treatments that combined human knowledge with dragon wisdom. Farmers from every continent came to learn the new growing methods that Prince Subin had developed. The dragon techniques could make crops grow faster and stronger while using less water. Countries that had struggled to feed their people were now growing more food than ever before. Scientists were working with dragons to create clean energy that did not harm the environment. The new power sources were replacing dirty coal plants and dangerous nuclear reactors. The air was getting cleaner and the planet was becoming healthier. But perhaps the most amazing change was something no one had expected. The dragons were learning as much from humans as humans were learning from dragons. Prince Subin had become a teacher to his own people, showing them things they had forgotten during their long history as the most powerful beings in space. Daeho watched with pride as Prince Subin taught visiting dragon scholars how to appreciate small, beautiful things. The dragons had become so focused on their great power and advanced technology that they had stopped noticing the simple joys of life. "Look how the morning light makes dewdrops shine on the rice plants," Prince Subin would tell the visiting dragons. "See how the chickens take care of their babies. Listen to the sound the wind makes when it moves through the wheat." The adult dragons were amazed by these lessons. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, but they had never learned to find happiness in quiet moments. They began to understand that being powerful was not the same as being wise. Prince Subin's influence was spreading throughout the Dragon Empire. Young dragons from distant star systems came to Earth to learn what the prince called the human way of seeing. They wanted to understand how to find meaning in everyday work and how to care for others without expecting rewards. The prince had also become famous as a peacemaker. His unique understanding of both dragon strength and human compassion made him perfect for solving conflicts between different species. When two alien races were ready to go to war, they would ask Prince Subin to help them find a peaceful solution. Earth itself was becoming known throughout the galaxy as the world of peace. Refugee ships from wars in distant parts of space came to Earth seeking safety. They knew that under dragon protection, they would be welcome and safe. Deho's small farm had become a place that beings from across the universe wanted to visit. They came to see the rice fields where a human farmer had shown kindness to a lost dragon child. Tour groups of aliens would walk respectfully through the gardens, listening to guides explain how this simple act of caring had changed galactic history. But despite all the attention and importance surrounding him, Deho remained the same quiet, hard-working man he had always been. Every morning he still woke before sunrise to check his crops. Prince Subin always joined him for these peaceful morning walks, and they would work together in comfortable silence. The prince had grown beautiful and powerful. His scales now showed hints of the royal gold coloring, and when he spread his wings they could cover Deho's entire house. But he was still the same thoughtful, gentle creature who had once been small enough to sleep in a blanket nest. "Do you ever regret staying here instead of living in a dragon palace?" Deho asked one evening as they sat watching the sunset. Prince Subin made the soft, warm sounds that Deho had learned meant happiness and contentment. The dragon moved closer to his adopted father and rested his great head gently on the old man's shoulder. "I have everything I need right here," the gesture seemed to say. Admiral Tai Yang visited often, and he was always amazed by the changes in his son. The prince had become wiser and more confident than any young dragon in their history. More importantly, he had learned to use his power to help others rather than to control them. "Your son is teaching our entire empire a new way to live," Deho told the admiral during one visit. "He shows us that being strong means protecting those who are weaker, not conquering them." Admiral Tai Yang nodded thoughtfully. "The Dragon Council has been discussing Prince Subin's teachings. Many of our old ways are changing because of what he learned here. Wars that seemed impossible to stop have ended peacefully. Species that have been enemies for centuries are becoming friends." The admiral paused and looked at Deho with deep respect. "All of this began because you saw a hungry child and decided to help. Your simple kindness has started a revolution of peace that is spreading across the entire galaxy." As Deho looked out over his fields that evening, he thought about how strange life could be. He had expected to spend his final years alone, tending his crops and remembering his deceased wife. Instead, he had gained a dragon son, become the most important human in history, and helped bring peace to countless worlds. The rice swayed gently in the evening breeze, and Prince Subin hummed an old Korean lullaby that Deho had taught him years ago. In the distance, ships from dozens of worlds were landing at Earth's spaceports, carrying beings who had traveled across the galaxy to learn about something called compassion. And at the center of it all, a simple farmer continued to tend his crops, proving every day that the smallest acts of love could change the universe. 2 years after the first dragon ships landed in his rice fields, Deho received news that amazed him more than anything that had happened before. Representatives from the Galactic Council, which governed thousands of planets across the universe, were coming to Earth with an important announcement. The Galactic Council had never held its meetings on such a young planet before. Usually they met on ancient worlds that had been part of space civilization for millions of years. But Earth was different. In just 2 years it had become the most peaceful place in the known galaxy. When the council representatives arrived, they came in ships so large they had to land in the ocean. Their leader was a being called High Chancellor Arajin, who looked like a tall tree made of crystal. She could speak every language in the galaxy, including perfect Korean. "Honored Deho," High Chancellor Arajin said when she visited his farm, "the Galactic Council has made a decision that has never been made before. We want to build our new headquarters here on Earth. Daiho nearly dropped the cup of tea he was serving to his unusual guest. Here, on Earth? But we are so new to space travel. We have barely learned that other planets exist. The crystal being's voice sounded like wind chimes when she laughed. That is exactly why we want to be here. Your world has become the one place in the galaxy where different species forget their old hatreds and learn to work together. The human way of thinking has taught us all something very important. Prince Subin, who is now known throughout the galaxy as the Dragon Ambassador, listened carefully to every word. He had become one of the most respected voices in galactic politics, even though he still spent his mornings helping Daiho tend the vegetable garden. High Chancellor Arajin explained what made Earth so special. For thousands of years, the different species in our galaxy have been suspicious of each other. We formed alliances based on fear or need, but never on real friendship. When species met for the first time, they would study each other carefully, looking for weaknesses or threats. She gestured toward Daiho with one of her branch-like arms. But humans do something different. When you found Prince Subin, you did not study him or question him or try to learn what he could do for you. You simply saw a creature that needed help and you helped him. This immediate kindness is something we had never seen before. The High Chancellor continued, "We have been watching how humans interact with all the species that now visit Earth. You do not see aliens. You see individuals. You do not ask what planet someone comes from before you decide whether to be friendly. You treat everyone with basic kindness first." Admiral Tae Yang, who had become Earth's most frequent visitor, nodded in agreement. The Galactic Council has been trying to prevent wars between species for centuries, but it was not until they saw the Earth example that they understood the real solution was not making better laws or stronger armies. The solution was teaching beings to care about each other. Over the following months, the most amazing construction project in galactic history began. Ships from every corner of the universe brought materials and workers to build the new Galactic Council headquarters. The building they created was a wonder that combined the best architecture and technology from thousands of worlds. But the most important decision was where to build it. The council insisted that the new headquarters be located close to Daiho's farm. They wanted their most important meetings to happen near the place where galactic peace had truly begun. Daiho found himself appointed to a position that had never existed before. He became the Universal Ambassador for Peaceful Contact. His job was to teach other beings the simple principles that had made his friendship with Prince Subin so successful. "I do not understand," Daiho said when they explained his new role. "How can I teach anyone anything? I am just a farmer who knows about growing rice and vegetables." High Chancellor Arajin's crystal face somehow managed to look very wise. "That is exactly what makes you the perfect teacher. You will show them that the most important knowledge is not about technology or politics or military strategy. The most important knowledge is about how to care for others." The council created something they called the Daiho Protocol for first contact with new species. Instead of the old ways of careful study and slow negotiation, the new rules were simple. When meeting beings in trouble, help them first and ask questions later. When meeting new species, offer food and shelter before discussing politics or trade. This new approach had already prevented 12 wars and established peaceful contact with 17 species that had never been part of galactic civilization before. The protocol was working so well that even the most warlike species were beginning to change their behavior. Daiho insisted that all the important meetings happen at his kitchen table over simple meals. World leaders and alien ambassadors would sit together eating rice and vegetables while discussing matters that affected billions of lives. The informal atmosphere helped everyone remember that despite their differences, they all had the same basic needs for food, shelter, and friendship. Prince Subin had become the most successful diplomat in galactic history. His unique understanding of both power and compassion made him trusted by every species. But he never forgot the lessons he learned working in Daiho's garden. As Daiho stood in his fields one evening, watching the lights of the new Galactic Council building twinkling in the distance, he thought about how impossible his life had become. 3 years ago, he had been a lonely old farmer expecting to live out his days in quiet solitude. Now he was the most famous human in the universe, the adopted father of a dragon prince, and the teacher who had helped bring peace to countless worlds. Ships from every corner of the galaxy landed on Earth every day, carrying beings who wanted to learn about this revolutionary idea called kindness. Prince Subin approached through the rice field, careful not to damage any plants with his now enormous claws. The Dragon Prince settled beside his adopted father and hummed the old Korean lullaby that had become their evening tradition. "We have done well, my son," Daeho said quietly in Korean. Prince Subin made the soft, content sounds that meant he agreed completely. Together, they watched the stars appear in the darkening sky, knowing that on countless worlds throughout the galaxy, other beings were learning that the greatest strength of all was the courage to be kind.